welcome to this week's edition of The Briefing Room. I'm your host, Bill Froehlich from WTCM Radio News. It's our weekly roundup of some of the stories making headlines here in northern Michigan. And joining me at the table this week, I've got Dave Lein from The Insider, the Grand Traverse Insider newspaper. Dave, welcome back.
Thank you.
And Alan Campbell from the Leelanau Enterprise. Alan, thank you for coming in. Good to see both of you guys. It's been a little while since we had you in. Alan, I guess let me start with you because it's been quite a busy several months in Leelanau County. You've had a change of leadership in a couple of different ways. Late last year we had Chet Janik, the new county administrator, and now you've got a new sheriff in town, quite literally.
Yes.
So let's start with some of those changing faces. Talk to me about that, the county administrator position as you've got new leadership there.
Well, Chet's, of course, he was a Leelanau County fellow. And I think that that allowed him to get a fast start. As soon as he got there, he was very familiar with the county, and he brings he's very well organized, but he's very personal too, and he's quickly gotten into the role as a leader, partially because as soon as he came in, he faced somewhat of a crisis with the community or with our Commission on Aging. And that got a lot of press. Probably everybody knew about that. The two former administrators resigned, or they retired, and it's a very the senior citizens are a powerful group, and the reaction of them towards the things that he was doing, I think would say a lot about his success through the years. And you know what? That's turned out pretty good.
My understanding, too, is that the Commission on Aging was, in effect, dissolved, restructured, renamed the Senior Services Agency.
Right.
And my question to Chet was, and maybe you've got some more insider knowledge on this, was how was that perception?
Yeah.
All right. That's not where I was going. All right. The perception in the community. Was there any concern that the perception was he's dissolving the Commission on Aging, or the Commission on Aging is going away, or we're just totally uprooting everything that's been going on?
Right.
Because other than this controversy over mileage payments, there didn't seem to be a lot of concern with how things were going.
Well, there was a lot of concern under the surface, I think, and it was kind of almost a black and white thing. So the Commission on Aging was either loved or maybe not as much loved. I think within the community there was concern about how funds were being spent. A year ago, or a little bit longer than that, there was the second in command was suspended for 3 days because of missing some protocol. Then that was probably about 2 years ago, maybe 2.5 years ago, there was a program to pay, as I recall, for heating, help folks with heating, and a lot of that paperwork was just plain missing. So there have been a lot of concerns through the years. The bottom line is the former COA director, Rosie Steffens, was a very personable and loving person, and she had many followers, and in that role she was, and this is obviously my opinion, in that role she was perfect for that role. But the COA grew and grew and grew quickly after 2002 when a dedicated millage was provided, and administratively it didn't keep up. I mean, that's just the bottom line.
So things now seem to be. Well, what's the perception now with the changeover and new director?
Well, there was some tightness within the old regime, and the new director, she's very personal too, and I think she has much respect. She's gained much respect already. And the other thing that could have been politically charged, they did away with the whole COA commission, which was a group of 9 folks who'd spent a lot of time trying to promote these services and navigate those services. And you got 9 folks out there who don't like what you did, and pretty soon that kind of can snowball because a lot of these people were involved elsewhere than the community. But they seem to have pulled that off well, and I think people are more looking to the future, which is what he wanted to do.
My recollection too, and correct me if I'm wrong, there was a discussion of whether there would be a new advisory board or advisory panel moving forward, and I asked, Chet at that time too, is it possible that any of these 9 folks could become part of that advisory panel? I mean, they're the ones who know the ins and outs.
Right.
And he left that possibility open, but has that advisory panel moved forward yet that you know of?
I don't know. It has not moved forward, and I don't know if it will. And it very well might, but the thought was we need to get our director in place, get the thing up and running, and then look for direction, because you can't leave a big gap in services. And so first things first, let's make sure we can provide the services to the folks who rely on them, and then maybe we'll draw in a little more input and chart out, if we're going to go in a different direction for the future. By the way, this week the board hired a company, Integrity Home Health Care. The owners are from Leelanau County, to provide those services, those housekeeping services, which was the what started this whole thing, on a contractual basis. So that's kind of a major change too. And but I don't think people are gonna. I don't think it's gonna miss a beat, truthfully. So.
While we're on the topic of changeover of leadership, let's just touch on the changeover at the sheriff's office too. Mike Borkovich, the new sheriff there, after several terms with Mike Oltersdorf. Tell us about that transition. Does that seem to go pretty seamlessly as well? I guess first off, a caveat. I've known Mike since he got to Leelanau County, and he has been our outdoor sports page, because he'd go out and get pictures of these dead deer and bring them in, and we'd have a lot of controversy. You have controversy, I'm sure, when people want to print pictures of dead deer. But in Leelanau County, it's a hunting tradition, but anyway. So he's worked with us before, and I already said my caveat, but I do see that deputies seem to be a lot happier. They feel, I think that he's tried to work from the bottom up. He's tried to bring them out and given them new opportunities. For instance, Lieutenant Kerr has just has opened up a website. There was another deputy who designed a new 150th anniversary badge. And he's got them going to all the ball games, stopping at all the schools. Leelanau County, we don't have a lot of serious crime, and his philosophy which I think deputies have embraced, is you need to go out there and show and be a part of the community, and when that happens, you'd be surprised how many things you didn't know about that you learn. And he's been at the county board meetings and well received. I think he's doing a pretty good job, truthfully.
I got to know him way back in the day when I was at the town meeting in Elk Rapids, and he kind of covered that area for the DNR, wasn't it? And he would always stop in. Sometimes he'd even call me, and say, "Hey, Dave, I wanted to give you a heads up on this." He really has the call it PR, just community engagement, and really likes to get out in the community and get their feedback as well. Right. And Clint, you were talking about, I know we did a story on him because he referees, and that was pretty neat, sitting down and talking with him, hearing about his experiences. That was a few years ago, but that's good. I'm glad that's working out.
Well, it is strange in that every other, and nothing against conservation officers, but they're generally, they're just generally not news hounds.
No.
They're not. You have to go find them. They don't usually find you, And in this business, we appreciate someone like that who can give you that information, and I think that the DNR was also benefited highly from that, from having a face out there that people actually got to know and didn't think was just hiding behind every tree. They were actually involved in things.
Yeah, and he doesn't seem like he spends it. I mean, that's not his goal behind.
Right.
Being engaged in the community, because I remember when I would talk with him, he'd say, "Well, you probably want to know about this." And I mean, he's ahead of the curve. I mean, he knows what you're gonna ask, so it's not like you just accept what he says. So
right. Oh yeah.
I think that says a lot too. I mean, and I can't think of a specific example, but I've known him for years too, with working at TV 7 and 4, and like you said, when you call the DNR, sometimes you kind of get the runaround, or you get sent down to Lansing, or you call the Cadillac office, and you're like, no, I just need help. Give me someone to talk to. And he was a DNR guy who was relatively cooperative and easy to come by in terms of information and making himself available. So like you said, I think that kind of went to a face of the DNR that people knew. And that probably didn't hurt his election efforts either.
No, it really didn't. I did have, frankly, I had concerns about how that style would work as a sheriff. I mean, as a sheriff, your primary goal, your primary job is as an administrator. I mean, you're not out there solving crimes. You're putting people in positions where they can solve crimes. So I did have some concerns, and plus, we had deputies who weren't necessarily happy anyways. That's no secret. We've got lawsuits getting filed, and one lawsuit filed, another one just getting taken care of. But everything seems to have transcended that, at least for now. It's been a nice early honeymoon. So we'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
Dave, let me turn over to you. What's making the top story in the Insider, either last week or what are you working on for this week?
Well, you guys hit the hard news. We sort of get more of the fun stuff, but I'm just a lot of the events we've been previewing, over the past couple weeks. It's just amazing how the winter has exploded. And it's not necessarily due to the weather. I mean, that helps, but I was just talking. Bill and I were talking before about how February used to. I mean, it was literally dead. I mean, there was just nothing to do, and the weather was so unpredictable that any sort of festival they planned around it would always end up getting rained out or something. And now, I mean, it's just every weekend there's a couple things, and last weekend was Vasa and things going on, and with the Comedy Fest coming up and all sorts of things, and all over too. I know Northport has their little festival coming up, and well, this weekend's Yeti Fest up there, isn't it?
Yeah, they found a Yeti, and they've got pictures of the Yeti, which is highly unusual. Yeti's been all over town. Apparently likes Sutton's Bay, and I'm not sure what he's going to do in the summer. I think it's a little warm there for him, but. That Yeti, and then they make chili down there, and they get perch down in Glen Arbor Saturday. They're gonna, sorry, but the idiots are gonna jump in the water down there on North Lake. They all come out, so I guess that works for them. But I agree with you. It's tough enough this summer keeping up with things, and now it seems like winter is going along the same way.
I don't know if you guys are like us, but I mean, kind of the off season was when you could delve into some stories and really, and now it's just like bing, bing, bing. You're right on top of it, and a lot of benefits are ramping up as well. I know this week we're going to have a story on Dance for the Cure for cancer, and then a lot of sports teams have been having their games, and I know March is it February or March that's Heart Month, so there's quite a few things going on with that.
I think it is February, but
is it?
I think it is too. They try to do that with cherries, apparently. So there you go.
I think so. And we just had a little blip about a guy from Sutton's Bay that was appointed to the National Crop Insurance. So that's quite an honor. Yeah, that's quite an honor, I think, for on a national scale. It's especially with the the rough spring we had last time around.
Right.
That there's a Northern Michigan voice on that, I think, is important.
Well, there's been a lot of behind the scenes working towards that tart cherry insurance. A lot of politics, in a good way for our area. And I recently interviewed Dr. Black from MSU, who provided a lot of information on the progress of the tart cherry insurance. He was at the Orchard Show. He said he's never seen anything move this fast within the Department of Ag. Now, I don't know if that says how fast the Department of Ag moves, but he, and I listened to that and I'm going, okay, well maybe. Well, then we got the press release on Jim Bardenhagen, and then shortly after that, Congressman Dan Banachek was appointed to the House committee which oversees that. So you can just see the stars aligning that that indeed it's a lot more than talk. I mean, now it seems like Leelanau County and the tart and the tart cherry industry have the people in place to push this thing through. I wouldn't be surprised that this fall they're talking about signing up for tart cherry insurance, and they all seem to think that will be good for the industry.
And the Farm Bill now seems to be the next big thing to whether we're going to tackle that. You know, I talked to Senator Debbie Stabenow, who seemed optimistic, but you know, then again, they were optimistic last year as well.
Right, and they, you know, the Senate approved as a last, you know, right before the end of the last session, approved a farm bill that didn't go anywhere, and we fell into that trap, and you know, I should have seen through this. Frankly, we got the press release. Okay, yeah, there's gonna. I didn't, you know, I should have known that if it doesn't pass that, you know, in that session, it's dead, and so it just died right then. Now, I agree that they're, you know, this year they're making it a bit more of a priority. I'm just so amazed that like 80% or whatever the percentage of the farm bill is meal vouchers.
Yeah.
I mean, and people, you know, I think from the outside, it's like, well, why can't you pass a farm bill? Well, it's not necessarily farm. It has a lot more to do with really with how we handle with social issues, because you know those meal. Why am I not?
The food stamps.
The food stamps, they become such an integral part of America. Plus, they become a lightning rod. I can't remember which Republican candidate ran and said, "You're the food stamp president." I think it was Gingrich, wasn't it, who said that?
I think it was.
Yeah. So there's a lot of. I mean, you can sort of see why that isn't going to fly through, and so it's nice to see maybe that tart insurance will have its own life rather than get caught up in that great big bill.
I think the food stamp issue is one that I still don't fully grasp either, just in terms of its inclusion in the Farm Bill, but I asked the senator about that as well, and I said, you know, this is what the Republicans are saying is why they didn't pass it, because it's full of food stamp funding. And Senator Stabenow said, well, you know, a lot of that directly affects our local farmers in terms of supporting our local industry and using the food stamps at the farmers market, for example, to support local growers. And so I guess there's a fine line, and you got to decide which side you come down on in terms of what you believe or support and what you don't. But you know, the senator was pretty adamant that that's got to stay in the Farm Bill, and that's a part of it. And then you've got the Republicans who say, well, this is why we're not voting for it. So we'll, I don't know. That's one that I'm sure will continue to be on the radar for months ahead. Dave, what else is coming up? We've got today's Valentine's Day. Happy day, gentlemen.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it's,
I didn't get your card.
I didn't get your flowers either.
I'll leave that to you. But yeah, you know, March is coming right up. I know they've been talking a lot about the roads too. I don't know how the roads are, you know, but this weather is just playing havoc with the. Yeah. I know. Just driving into Traverse today, it's like you want to stay away from that right lane because it's just like chunking away, and it's like they had mentioned, it's so hard to keep up on it because, you know, 1 minute it's one way in Michigan, and next it's not. And
it's been a strange winter.
Yeah.
In that sense, I think too.
What do you guys think about, you know, the governor's idea about improving the roads and raising the gas tax? You think that's?
I think he mentioned the 14-cent hike in the gas tax to raise $1 billion for roads or
something like that. Yeah.
My personal thought on it is he threw that out there to kind of force the hand of lawmakers to come up with a better plan.
Yeah.
Because I think he knows that that's not a popular decision or a popular suggestion, and I don't think it'll end up that way. But what will come out of it, I think, is the bigger question. What compromise will lawmakers come up with?
It's interesting that he came out with that and then gas jumped, you know. It's just
yeah.
But I don't know about schools either, you know, what's going to happen. How are your schools up there? They're kind of hanging
funding?
on? Yeah.
we're such a strange place. Two of our schools receive virtually no state funding, or they're
They're
not
out of
on
formula,
the
right?
Yeah, they don't get the per pupil. So we're the perfect dichotomy if someone wants to come up to Leelanau County and investigate what's wrong with school funding. We got two out. We got one that's in Leland that manages. I mean, not saying that there isn't a lot of problems financially, but Leland they've also organized, and they get a lot of support from the community through their educational foundation, which is private donations. Most communities don't have that opportunity. You're not going to have donors. And then Sutton's Bay, which always struggles with their money, and on the per pupil, when you have a declining population, boy, you get doubled up. So the big thing that's changed probably is that the money goes further because of because of the healthcare issue now, forcing teachers to pay towards their healthcare. That money is freed up to that doesn't go into the healthcare bucket. What was that? There was one other change that I can't remember what it was. Anyways, there's been some changes that has freed up some money, and I guess that's good for schools. If you're a teacher, it's not good. I mean, because basically the teachers ended up receiving less in benefits. That money will go back into the education.
Sutton's Bay was making headlines last year with their creative fundraising efforts to try to help their own budget. Did that pay off, and do you foresee, or have you heard, are they continuing those efforts into this calendar year?
Well, this Monday night they had a school board meeting to explain a little bit their funding problems. Mike Murray, who I know you guys both know, says that this idea that there's more money available for kids per pupil is kind of a sleight of hand, that actually what's given here has been taken away through these programs designed to provide more money if you meet certain standards. So, I'm a believer that whole system is so screwed up that, and so much of that now is written into the Constitution that you really need some. Of course, there's no trust in politics, which is why there hasn't been any major fixes. But you really need to just wipe that slate clean and write a new program into the Constitution. It's the same as with property taxes. Property taxes are such a mess. That we've tried to manipulate that and help this group and help that group, and then make this group pay more, to the point that it's too complicated to fix. And the only way to fix it is it's written in the Constitution. The lawmakers can't do it. Their backs are always against the wall. So that's my spiel. It's a mess.
I live up in Elk Rapids, and I don't know how it happened, but I ended up on the school board and got reelected.
Yeah.
And you just see a lot, and I know we've trimmed and trimmed and trimmed, and it's just there's nothing left to trim, except I know it's popular that we haven't done anything with is the privatization of, cooks, custodians, and so forth. And I think it was kind of quiet, semi-quiet when Sutton's Bay did it, but I know was it last year that Kingsley, I think, their bus drivers and stuff, that got kind of lit up a little bit. So I don't know, it's tough, but where else do you cut?
Well, I don't understand why other schools haven't jumped into the beta equation. I mean, that really has saved a lot of money for Sutton's Bay. Folks may like having a yellow school bus pull up to their front yard, but when the types of fiscal problems that schools face, that seems like a pretty easy, I don't want to say easy, but a pretty credible,
feasible solution.
Yeah, because you already got a pattern. I mean, it's been proven that it can help and save money. And Sutton's Bay also did with their custodians. Did the same thing, privatized that. So Sutton's Bay's been the leader in these things, and you got to give Mike Murray credit that's why the doors are still open.
Well, and I remember talking to Tom Menzel from Beta when that came through as well, and some of the controversy, I said, well, Tom, it's easy. Just paint all the beta buses school bus yellow.
Yeah.
And we'll resolve that problem right there.
And you notice it hasn't changed either. There have been efforts, and you'd think, like you say, it'd be the simplest thing: change state law so that these beta buses that are dedicated to school routes can be yellow. And at the time, we talked to Representative Franz, talked to Boer,
right?
And we're going to get. Well, you know what? It is tough to make those changes. There's special interest groups that. They want schools to hire bus drivers, and a lot of it comes down to unionization. I mean, a lot of it comes down to that they want schools to hire their own employees, and a lot of it comes down to union money and influence, and the transportation industry too. So, anyways, not easy.
Let's wrap up this week with your story of the week, or any other favorite things that you want to talk about. I know we'll start with Alan in terms of the story above the fold on the Northport Golf Course. It's kind of a big development in the works up there.
That is major. I would say my story of the week would be back to Mr. Janik. His family came to Cedar in 1961. His family, obviously, a lot of folks left Poland because of the communist regime, and there was, they sent back all of their passports to Poland, wanted nothing to do with them, and just this week, Mr. Janik received in the mail notification that he had been accepted back as a citizen of Poland. So we have a dual citizenship administrator, and it says something about Leelanau County. No one made a Polish joke, and the Polish in Leelanau County they're such. I mean, what a great ethnic group, and what a tight community they are. But it was cool, and the reason why is because, as I mentioned, he's got it plus his Polish pride. With that, his sons, his family, his kids can become Polish citizens, and Poland is part of the EU. With that little EU, that European Union card, if they choose a career in Europe, they can go wherever they want, just show their card. So that's my story.
That's a great one.
Well, that's neat. Mine's kind of less exciting, but we kind of focused on Valentine's Day. We did a story on a couple that's been married nearly 70 years, and then also we did a story about folks that are in business, couples that are in business together, and how that works and how they respect each other's space, and one may handle certain responsibilities, the other one not. And I think the best quote was from the folks that run Top Drawer, because he handles that side of the street.
Across the street.
Yeah, and she said her secret is that there's a street that runs between them. So
I remember, I gotta say, I did a story on an old couple married 70 years. I asked, that's a great question, you ask. And she gave the best answer. She says, well, I learned if he goes in the garage, just let him go. Secret for 70 years.
That'll work. Well, guys, I want to thank you both for coming in. Alan Campbell from Leelanau Enterprise and Dave Lein from The Insider. Thank you, guys. I appreciate you being with us this week.
Thank you.
And thanks for joining us on The Briefing Room. I'm Bill Froehlich from WTCM. Hope you'll tune in again if you joined us later. You can always check us out online as well. Read the blog every week as well. We look forward to seeing you next week on The Briefing Room. I'm Bill Froehlich.